Do you know the last
how?
time I spoke to you was this?
Oh, don't
It was in
say.
this month, in
Oh,
Valentine's, when you
okay.
and it was 2013, I think. When I can't remember which album release it was, but you came up, you did a little tour, and you visited lots of media houses. I was one of them,
Wow.
and
Okay.
so that was a long time ago, eight years ago. But you still look the same. Do you sleep in a fridge or something?
Wow. I'm I'm embarrassed. No,
I
yeah.
see a
I'm
little
not nice to
blushing.
speak to. Yeah, I am.
Oh,
It's
bless you,
it's been pretty
likewise.
crazy. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff, and I just come back from outside and I had to get back in time because I knew I had this 5 o'clock. I was stuck
Bless
in a
you.
bit of traffic. It's snowing here in Birmingham, so it was a bit mad.
Well, it's snowing in sunny Bradford as well.
Are you in Bradford?
Yeah, I'm in Bradford.
I always
Hey,
think people are sitting in London when they interview me. I don't know why, which is a bit weird,
really?
but
Don't forget us Northerners. We exist too.
yeah. Anyway, it's all good. How you
So
doing, Fatima?
anyway,
All good?
all good, all good. So Kinna Chona, from
Kinna
Kinna
Jonna.
Sona to Kinna
Yeah,
Chona.
yeah.
Tell us about the journey. It's amazing. I love the
Thank
new
you.
vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely Bally Sagoo 90's
Mm,
flavor. Obviously, I did the track last year before lockdown, and it's off my new album. And it's a new song, and I found a guy who comes from Jammu, Vikram Mali, and he played me the composition over the phone, and I loved it immediately. And I thought, wow, I like this tune. And he goes, would you work with me? And I'm like, yes. So I recorded the track, and yeah, I knew immediately I was going to make it into a 90's vibe because
yeah.
my whole album has got that kind of a touch, really, the new album. So, and then, yeah, the girl in the video, Dev Shikanduri, who's also a Bollywood actress, she wrote the tune, she wrote the lyrics. And she obviously was starring in the video, and she directed the video. So it was all like a little bit of a team thing. And now you have it, Kinajana.
Fantastic. I mean, I watched the video and it is beautifully made, and I love
Thank you.
and I'm going to bring in the word the flashback because obviously that was one of your albums as well. So I
Bollywood
love
Flashback.
yes.
Yeah.
So I love that she goes back into the flashback of the
Yeah.
earlier life of her love. And then obviously
The
fast
story.
forward to present day, a bit like what's
Yeah.
happening with you, really. Actually, when I was told or given your press release and that you're back now with this single, I went into a bit of a flashback. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the guy that I remember as a kid, because we all back in the day we used to listen to Western music as well as Bollywood music, so we used to regularly on a weekend tune into Top of the Pops, and it was all the Western music. And then all of a sudden you get somebody that is the same as you, same color, on
Same
Top of the
color.
Pops. Yeah, well, almost. You're
You're a
a
brown
lovely
color.
looking brown color.
Brown color.
On Top of the Pops,
Yeah,
it
that was
was
mad, huh?
it was madness. I remember me
Yeah.
and my cousins are about 10, 20 of us in that, because that's how it used to be in those days. Just all
Yeah.
glued to the TV watching. Oh my God, this is big stuff. It was big news.
It was a big moment for the whole Asian industry globally. I mean, I got invited to the palace in India for my achievement by the late president of India. But yeah, I mean, it was the first time. I mean, growing up as a little kid, I always said one day I'm going to come on that Top of the Pops, and my mom and dad would like, "Chup kar gaya," and study kar. So I was like, no, one day I want to be on there. And obviously, 1996, Dil Cheese, number 12 in the mainstream
Yeah.
charts, was a first time ever in history an Indian full language song was in the charts and Top of the Pops of all the things. And it was on national radio and it was playing all over the place. And the whole idea was to go to a chart returns shop and buy the tape and the CD, which is what I was asking all my fans to do. Hence, it worked, because if you didn't go to a chart return shop, then they couldn't register the sales. And obviously that's how we got the position in the charts. But it was, I mean, amazing. 1996.
Phenomenal. Yeah. But Bally, I want to say that 1996, you achieved that. Present day, 2021, we're still not there. Why do you think that is?
Well, I've done everything I can. I mean, you're asking me. I think you should ask other people.
True.
I mean, it's not easy to get our music
Yeah.
into mainstream unless it's got something that the Western market will like. I mean, my song was more of a meaningful song. It was a very mellow song. It was a typical epic Bally Sagoo ballad type of a track, and I've done loads of those type of songs. And I thought will people understand it? Will they relate to it? Will they get into it? Because lyrically, it was a very strong song. And obviously the music and the mood captured a lot of people. So if a song is going to go into mainstream today as well, right, you got to remember when people are listening to it, what are they going for? No one knows what is the secret. People go into certain reasons for whatever sound or vibe, or whether it's got some kind of a rap in there to cross it over. But yeah, I mean, like you say, why don't we have lots of normal, big tunes in the mainstream? And the mainstream also, they won't accept a lot of things. I don't think a lot of songs will chart, regardless of being how big they are in Bollywood, or some of our Bhangra songs. They might be too hardcore for some audiences, really, and that's always been a problem, really.
No, I understand. I mean, you mentioned obviously what you achieved back then, and now you've come out with a new track, and it's still. I enjoyed listening to it, and I enjoyed watching the video as well, and it still resonates, still peppy, it's still relevant. So how does somebody like you, in terms of what is the secret to still being successful 3 decades on, still being relevant?
Coming up to 4 decades now.
Is it 4 decades?
Why? It's not. This is the question.
You definitely live in a fridge.
I've been making music since the 80s.
Wow.
And yeah, my first track came out in 89, Hai Jamala Tu Tak song with Malkeet Singh. But I mean, I was making music in the 80s, and going back, I was doing before a lot of music. But I mean, I don't really want to know what's happening on the scene. I just do what I enjoy doing, really. I mean, I hope that people get into my music, and that's always been my thing, really. And on my new album, there's something for everyone, I hope. I always try to make sure there's a bit of Bhangra, there's a bit of, a bit of mellow stuff, and there's some up-tempo, dancey stuff. And because there's all types of listeners that like my music, I get so many people, like, they say, hey man, can you do some more Bhangra? Hey, can you do some more Bollywood Flashback stuff? And I'm like, it's not easy to do covers and remixes today because of lots of rules and laws have changed now. It was different back in the days. And can you do another Churalia? Why would I do another Churalia? Honestly, I would never be able to stand up to that task and do another one, and I wouldn't even attempt to do it. But you can't tell Amitabh Bachchan to do another Sholay, can you? It's just not going to work. I think, certain things you just don't touch. You can't go back and do it again, and it will never compete.
Yeah, true. Speaking of Amitabh Bachchan, you've worked with him. You've collaborated on an album with him. He's an actor, but you both went and did music together. What was that like?
Well, obviously, AB Baby was the name of the album, and it was in '96. And Amitabh Bachchan contacted me to do the album.
Amazing.
Because I didn't contact him, so it wasn't my idea, kind of a thing. But yeah, he wanted to do an album, and the only difference was he says, I want to sing this album in his deep voice. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to sing the songs. And I was like, okay, you're not really a singer, but obviously you are a massive superstar, and whatever you want to do, I'm with you, man. So, and obviously, yeah, my condition was that you come to Birmingham, to my studio. I'm not doing it overseas. So he spent a good 6 months here. And, we were jamming every day, and we did the whole AB Baby album. And my favorite track was Kabhi Kabhi, by far, the first track. And he's Amitabh's dad was a poet. He wrote the songs, and so Amitabh Bachchan was singing the poems that his father wrote, and then I obviously just put him into a musical vibe, really, and ends the end project AB Baby.
Not many can say that they've worked with such a legend. You've worked with many legends, though, from Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan to touring with Michael Jackson. Which one would you say has been your most memorable?
They all are. They all stand up for me for great moments in my time, in my life, and I'm so grateful that I got that opportunity. I was mainstream. So Michael Jackson needed a mainstream artist on stage in India, and obviously I got the call, and I was more than excited, and we got to perform for a good 45 minutes. We did a 45-minute slot, and it was like, he's going to be on the stage next after me. So it was an amazing thing, and by far, the biggest and the best collaboration for me that stands out is Nusrat Ali Khan's Magic Touch.
Yeah, it's an amazing album that I mean, everybody still remembers it even now. over the years, what would you say has been a good change in the music industry, and what would you say has been a not so good change within the music industry?
Well, I mean, that's a really difficult one. I mean, I think over the years, obviously, with the whole social media and all the whole online stuff now, it's opened up a lot of the world to a lot of people now, because there was one time when, India didn't see all these things and we didn't see what was going on elsewhere as well. So everyone was doing their own thing. And now we all can kind of see, okay, that's what's happening in that part of the world and this is what's happening here. So when we were growing through, we didn't have these kind of things really. And I still think it was a better time. Why? Because you had to work much, much harder to get your music out there. Today, you can just put it out overnight and just see what people think. And also, as you know, with the technology today, I can make you sing. So, there's a lot of tools nowadays and software that, people use to disguise their voice and make them sound decent. And obviously, I don't really agree to all of those things, but such is the music scene today. I mean, there's there are some good people and there are some that probably won't last the time really. I mean, it's hard to stand the time and have your songs go on for generations. That's always the hardest task, and that's the test to see which songs will stand out forever. Like what I mean made today, will they work in another 10, 20, 30 years time?
And what kind of music are you listening to at the moment? I remember reading some of your interviews, and you were always into reggae and obviously Bollywood and Bhangra. How's your taste in music over the years? Because there's so much on offer now. Like you said, with social media, we're getting access to the world on our fingertips. So has your personal taste and choices in sounds and music changed over the years?
I'm still heavy into the 80s and the 90s sound. My new album has got that vibe on there. This track has got that whole 90s style of a sound that we were so used to hearing. And I still like that sort of era. For me, it was a very special time. The 90s especially, I mean, not just as in the Indian music scene, but as in the mainstream globally. And of course, my reggae, and all my old R&B songs, I still listen to them all the time. My soul tunes, I still listen to them all the time. I don't listen to a lot of Bhangra, as in today, much. I only hear the one or two songs every now and then. Even, I think, songs coming from India, they're not so hard in Bhangra now. They're much more modernized now. They've all gone on this heavy trap vibe. A lot of the stuff does sound the same. And the younger generation, they obviously have a different way of listening, consuming to music nowadays, but I still prefer the whole earlier Bhangra songs. I still like those tunes, and there are occasional songs that come through that I still, same with Bollywood. I think Bollywood has changed so much now. I mean, even in Bollywood now, it's just become a different sort of a sound now, because the younger guys are making music today. It's not the older music directors as they used to be called in those times. It's more younger guys, younger people making the tunes and also singing, and a lot of the big legendary singers are not singing much today, which is a shame really.
Would you say that's a bad thing, or obviously it's about personal taste as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm a bit like you. I'd prefer listening to the old legendary voices, but obviously, like you said, anybody can sing now because of the technology that we have. But yeah, a lot of the beats are very loud and the flavors are...
Turn the volume down then. The beats are loud.
I remember that. But you know what I mean by loud, not in terms of the volume, but in terms of the way it's presented. It's, an item song or, that kind of stuff. Would you ever see, because you did a lot of Bollywood albums.
I've done loads, I've done a lot of official Bollywood mixes and a lot of the Shah Rukh Khan stuff. I did a lot of those. And that was a different time. Today, I mean, I'm glad that the whole redoing of a certain song has kind of died off a bit, because it was getting too much with all the Kanta Laga and volume 50 and, the same song just being redone. I mean, Churalia came out like 50 times afterwards, and I was like, what? It was just done to death. So there was a time and a phase where they were just churning them out one by one in Bollywood as well. And that's kind of died down, which is good. And I think, it's obviously a bit under control now. And, But of course, Bollywood has become very trendy nowadays. As you know, all the actors and everyone's looking much better. They're working out, and they're obviously appealing to a younger audience now. Musically, I still think the older stuff was better because they had a lot more melodies and the sounds were much bigger, and everyone was using a lot of live instrumentation. And I think it was just when you hear a 90s record on the radio, it puts a smile on your face. You think, oh, I remember this tune. That was so nice, and the melody was nice. Lyrically, it was very strong. Composition was really crazy, and of course amazing singers like Alka and Sonu Nigam and Kumar Sanu, Udit Narayan. I mean, I've worked with most of these singers, and Shreya Ghoshal. I mean, it's always a pleasure to hear those people singing, really, and it's a shame that most of a lot of this stuff they don't sing that much nowadays. Now, hardly. Even in films now, younger people are singing in movies now, like very young. Because that's what the movies are getting. They're just getting younger singers to come in and dub a song for a young actress or someone,
So it's a good phase for you, really, then, isn't it? Where you're just relaxed and just waiting. And if you find something, which you have now, thank goodness, you're obviously putting it out there and letting your fans.
I mean, there's a new audience out there now, and some of them know my music and some of them don't. Out of almost 50 plus albums now, people are like, okay, we don't know half of your tunes. I'm like, okay, and how old is this song? I'm like, this is from 1991. Gurunali Shmata is 1991, and Aja Nachale is 98, and people think, is that how old he was? And Joli Ke Piche, 1996, and I'm like, sometimes I kind of look back and think, was that really 25 years ago, or was that 30 years ago? Can't be 30 years ago, because it feels like it was like 10 years ago. It kind of like makes me wonder sometimes, like, am I really that old? did I do that in 1991? Oh yeah, it was 1991. I'm like, wow, it's been a long time. But when I go to parties and places around the world and I hear my tunes playing, obviously that it makes me feel great that, wow, this song is so old. Malika Aurora was in my video, and I'm like thinking, wow, she's obviously, become something so massive, and so she must be getting older now as well. So that from that time, and Arjun Rampal in Kinna Sona. And I'm like, it doesn't feel that long ago, but it is that long ago. I mean, Magic Touch was in 1991. I mean, and as you know, still to this day, these songs are still getting rotation on a lot of radios and parties, so it makes me sort of sometimes look back and think, wow, man, it's been an amazing journey, and obviously the journey I hope will still continue.
So when you actually reflect, obviously it has been an amazing journey, and I was just reminiscing, and there was a lot of nostalgia that came up when I was looking back at some of your albums and some of your songs. But when you look back, and do you ever look back and think, right, if I'd not got into music, my journey would have been something else, and I would have been somewhere else.
Same as your parents. My mom and dad, doctor banja, solicitor banja, accountant banja. I'm like, why do I want to be an accountant for? I mean, who wants to be an accountant? So I mean, my parents obviously were not happy about me trying to do something like going into the music business, but there again, it was a totally different struggle growing up in the early 80s and growing up in Birmingham. But I'm so glad I had that sort of background. I mean, I didn't just wake up in the music scene. I was doing it from school. I was standing on the roads and selling mixtapes. I was mixing constantly in my bedroom with lots of different songs. I didn't listen to Indian music. I was always interested in the whole disco vibe, and I was heavy into Bee Gees, Bob Marley, Boney M. I was heavy into that whole 70s sound, and I was always experimenting from one cassette to another. I was always cassette mixing, and I always just screw the tape up and join it up again.
People don't even know what that is these days.
I know, shows my age, I suppose. But I mean, I was always doing that kind of stuff, and I miss those days because I used to get a knife and really cut the tapes open and do some
really
crazy surgery on tapes, and I mean, and I got good at it as well, and I was like, it was a regular thing for me. I mean, it was more than a hobby; it was my life, really. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I was spending day in, day out, and I wasn't interested in what was happening on the blackboard in school and what the teacher was saying. I was more interested in get back home, listen to the top 40 and listen to what's happening in the charts and listen to the whole, that song is good and this song is good, and buying my records every day, every week. I used to go to a record shop on Ladypool Road called Don Christie. And I always used to go out and buy a 7-inch record from there. And I was always buying whatever new records came out. And they were predominantly reggae records. And a lot of the black music scene that I was growing up with, really. The Indian music scene wasn't around. There wasn't a scene. It was Bollywood. And that was what my mom and dad were listening to, because when they came from India, that's what they grew up with. What do we grow up with? We've lived here all of our lives. I was born in India, but obviously I've been raised here all my life. So we needed an identity and we needed a sound. And that's when I thought, okay, you know, I need to do something and combine them together, you know, make some new sort of style of music. And I don't know what it's going to be called or what's going to happen. But of course, my mom and dad were still not very happy. They said, you know, you need to study hard and get married. And I'm like, I'm only 12 years old. Why do I want to get married for? You know, you need to do normal things, like, so we can impress the neighbors. I said, the neighbors don't even like us. They're racist. And I'm like, well, who cares about what the neighbors think? You know, it's like, want to show off, like, our son is a solicitor. I'm like, who cares? So to remember those conversations with my mom and dad, because today you can turn around and say, hey, mom, I want to be a music producer. I want to be a singer, songwriter. I want to be a guitarist. Or I want to design lampshades, because today there's a lot of occupations now, but in those days it was limited. You know, doctor, engineer, lawyer, you know, a nurse.
Yes.
There was 5 occupations that you want to have, because all of your uncles and aunties that show off with the best kids have that occupation. And I'm like, I can't even spell degree. I mean, forget doing a degree. So
but you made it. You made it, and you're hugely successful.
Well, I mean, I don't know about, I think I followed my dreams. Obviously, I followed my passion, and that was making music. And luckily for me, I have a lot of people that enjoyed my music from India, Pakistan, all over the world, and Asians generally, from Australia to, you name it, you know, California. And it was important for me to have not just Punjabi Bhangra fans. I wanted to get that Bollywood sound, because if you remember, in the early days, I only did Bhangra stuff. And come 94, Bollywood Flashback was my little, let me take on Bollywood now. And then I went to India and I recorded Bollywood Flashback, and I got very sick while I was recording the album. And but yeah, it was the first time literally I went back to India after so long, after I was born. And I thought, I'm going to record all these wonderful songs. And I'll tell you a quick little story. When I was recording Churaliya, Adi Burman was standing outside the door, and unfortunately I didn't get to meet him. And everyone was telling me, Adi Burman's outside and he wants to know what you're up to, because he's like, some guy has come and recording his old song. And why is he recording an old song for? Because it's not done. Why would you record an old song? And I was thinking, I have an idea. So I finished doing the recording, and he had gone home. And when I finished the track and the album, he had passed away during the making of my album. And then I did dedicate the whole album to him. So if you look at the album, it says, in the memory of the great Adi Burman, who obviously was the inspiration for a lot of those tracks, especially Churaliya, you know, obviously that was one of his masterpieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the new generation, because obviously his songs came out in the 70s, they were popular then, but you brought it out in the 90s, and there was a lot of people like me who hadn't listened to those songs, but you made them. Some people didn't know
Churaliya. Yeah, when I did Churaliya,
they said, the original.
Brand new song, Churaliya. And I was like, this is a cover version, not a remix, a cover version of an old 70s track.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you know, it was interesting to see what people think about it, because at the end of the day, the original will always be the masterpiece. I just did a new version of what I thought will work in today's sort of market. Same with the rest of the songs, you know, Mehbooba, Mehbooba, Roop Tera, Kurbani, Kurbani. I handpicked some songs that I thought people would love to hear again, and some of the songs obviously that I thought would be great ideas. So I got all these singers to sing for me, and they were all like, you want us to sing an old song? And I'm like, yes. And pay us? I'm like, yes. They were like, we don't normally get to sing, we don't get asked to sing an old song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, we want to do something and try it. So I got all these musicians together, and they were all like, you know, we don't normally do like an old song. And this is going back in the early 90s, you know. I mean, I did I did Flashback in 94. So yeah, when I went to India, I was like, I got a couple of people together and I said, I want to record some old songs. Where they're like, everybody wants to record some new songs. Why do you want to record old songs? And I thought, I've got this album idea. And I said, okay, let's see if it works. I'm like, okay, let's see if it works. And it kind of changed the whole scene. And yeah, and hence the title. The title was Bollywood Flashback. It was just a flashback at the industry. And then years later, I did the sequel in 2000, which had Noori on there. And that was Bollywood Flashback 2. And am I
Yeah.
going to do Bollywood Flashback 3? I don't
was
think
gonna
so.
ask.
Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Well, because it's a
Why?
lot different now, doing covers and remixes, and it's a lot more different rules and regulations now, and it's not as it used to be before. You got to work in liaison with the whole original copyright holders, and it's not feasible if you're going to spend a year or two on doing a project where you're not going to get anything for it, really, because the original copyright belongs to XYZ companies. So, I mean, I've been asked by some labels in India to do something on this tip, but it's a very, very big project to take on. And then you find out that you're not going to really get anything for it, because the songs are owned by these people, and they're pretty much going to take everything.
Yeah,
so,
it has to be commercially viable, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. And of course, I don't do it overnight. It will take me a long time. I mean, I'll spend a whole year on doing the project where I'm like thinking, well, I'm not really going to get anything for it, but I should still do it because the fans want it. Yeah. So I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah. But I have to say that when your remixes came out, they were popular. And I think I don't want to call you the remix king because you're a legend, so I don't really want to say that. But in reality, when you did remix a song, it was far more popular than any of the other remixes. Like you said, Chiralia was remixed 50 odd times. But yours were the one that mainly stood out. You actually set off the trend, and I think that trend over time, like you said, has sort of died, but it's sort of coming back where Bollywood's trying to regurgitate some of the old songs again, but it's still not got the kind of flavor that you brought when you were doing it back in the 90s.
Well, I mean, first of all, I do take a hell of a long time on my productions. I don't do songs overnight. Juralia took 3 months. Took me 12 weeks to do that track.
Wow.
In India, they make a song overnight. I don't know how people can work so fast. People can work very quick, and it takes me a long, long time to do a song. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I put my heart and soul into something. I try to keep the essence of the original song, but then I have to completely change it because it's no point me doing something. It's the same, and also it's a cover version. So what we're doing is like a Beatles or an Elvis Presley track, and we're going to do it in a different style. And that's the whole idea of doing a cover. Really, you take what you think will work, and then put something together where you think that the people will enjoy, and officially gets released, and it's not like a bootleg or something. And and then I get the musicians. I mean. Live musicians are always the best thing when you can get them to record, and then hopefully some good singers, because you can't get the original singers. Half of them are not around anymore, but you try to get good singers, because that was a brother and sister that recorded on my song Churalia. That was a brother and sister, but the guy sounds like Ruffy, and his voice was so much similar to a Ruffy sound, and I was like, wow. And then the girl had a totally different sound to Asha Bhosle's sound. So I thought, okay, again, it's a good thing because we're doing a whole different version, because you don't need to have a singer that sounds exactly the same. If you're going to do a new version, you can have a whole different type of a voice. There's no rules really. It's what sounds nice and will work with your style of music. And that's the whole important thing really, because not every singer can sing on every style of music, no matter how good he is. Like some singers don't sing nice love songs, and some singers don't sound great on a dance song. So it's always like getting the perfect match where you think his voice sounds really nice, like Arijit's voice really sounds nice on real nice mellow tracks, and he sounds great on love songs. And then you got some other singers who sound great on dance numbers, but they don't sound so great on a very slow romantic tune. So it's getting that perfect mix is always kind of a hard thing, or somebody who can sing on all levels is really, really good, so that they're very, very versatile.
So is there a message that you want to give out with this song to all your fans and to all of the people like me who've been waiting for years for you to come back on the scene?
Of course. I mean, I'm saying that give this song a bit of time and digest it, and it gets into your system like a little virus. It definitely takes you on board, and it gets you into a bit of a journey, and it starts making your mind go into a different sort of zone. And I think slowly it's doing that. It's got people in its spell, and that whole 90s flavor, it's got Bally Sagoo kind of written all over it. It's that 90s sound. And if you listen to the 90s stuff, you'll hear the same vibes are there. I mean, the monks, I've used them in so many of my early stuff. Even the Amitabh Bachchan songs in the Kabhi Kabhi, I had the monks in that. and that whole vibe was in Kinna Sona. The Gunjan version I had done as well, the female version of Kinna Sona. So this is the typical sound of the 90s for sure. And this breakbeat, the sound, everything, was on so many tunes in Bollywood, so many Punjabi songs. And it was definitely that era that comes through when you hear it on the radio, when this song plays, and it stands out. I mean, the next song and the song before has a totally different sound. And this song kind of just slides in there, really. And also, I think we all need a bit of a mood change. We all kind of need some kind of a different, like, hey man, there's so much stuff going on, and everyone's kind of feeling a little bit kind of like, I'm a bit fed up, or I'm a bit like, I need to kind of do something different, or I need to hear something different, or I need to go somewhere different. This is a breath of fresh air, I feel, and I think that the guys who have been behind the project with me, the Vicky and the writer and everyone behind the video have done a really amazing job, even though, there's not really a lockdown going on in that part of the world. I couldn't travel, even be anywhere near the video, but obviously we had to conduct everything over the phone, and I'm really happy the way it's turned out, really. And it's like a little mini movie kind of an idea. And then, the whole album is what I'm really excited for people to hear, and everyone's just so excited that Bally Sagoo, you're back, man. Where you been? I'm like, I haven't been anywhere. I'm still around. I'm not really disappeared, but I've not been giving you music for some time, and hence here's some new music for you to enjoy, and hope I can get some new audiences as well, because it's always nice when I get new people listening to my music, as well as the original guys who have always followed my music. It's like nice when I get young fans and saying, hey man, I wasn't born when your Churalia came out, and I was like, well, I don't like you now. How old are you? They're like, I'm 21. I'm like, oh god, my headphones are older than you. Okay, you're 21. So okay,
but I bet anyway, they can't look as good as you do now.
No, I mean, they obviously say, well, I was 2 years old when your song came out. Oh, my mom and dad are your fans. I'm like, why can't you be my fan? So, my mom and dad are big fans of yours. I'm like, okay, cool. But hopefully you'll be my fan, listen to my music. Hopefully you'll like my music.
I've been a fan from ages, from the 90s. I still am.
Well, you got great taste in music, Fatima. You got good taste in music.
Thank you.
I would say that, but I mean, obviously it's always appreciate everyone that's obviously excited and want to speak. I mean, there's a lot of radio stations that want to just talk for hours about old times, and I love it, when we kind of like reminisce about the 90s, really, because if you were around in the 90s, there was a real magical time.
Yes.
And the people that wasn't around in that time, they really missed a really important part of the whole scene and how the birth of the whole UK thing came about. And going back to the 80s, because I'm a die-hard Bhangra fan from the early 80s, mid-80s, all the Hira stuff and the whole club scene, and Prem Me and Alap. Remember, we used to go to the Daytimers, and we used to want to hear our music in a nightclub being blasted, and we never heard that, that wow, on a big sound system. And I was at the forefront of that, trying to get the music across to the Gore audiences and the mainstream audiences and the non-Asians. And now it's a normal thing, man. You can go anywhere in the world and just, you'll get a few desi tunes blasting anyway, so it's obviously it's always a nice feeling, and I think that's important.
No, definitely, I agree. I think that at that time as well, because we didn't have smartphones, you didn't have that much choice, so you were able to absorb and enjoy what was coming out slowly, whereas now it's like there's this, there's just so much, so you don't actually get a chance to appreciate it, I think, personally.
I think it's spoiled for choice nowadays. There's a lot happening out nowadays, so you've got so much going on, and it's like this quick, it's so fast, and it's a lot faster, the speed of everything that comes and goes, and just like it's like whoa. Like back in the days, remember every Saturday afternoon when you go and buy your dals, you'll buy the latest cassette, like what's come out this week, this has come out this week, let me buy that. This has come out, okay, it was like that. Like every weekend you'll be looking forward to going to the shops with your parents, and so they're getting all the toilet papers and they're getting all the dal sabjis from the Indian shops. And you want to go to the music shop and say, what's new this week, man? Hey, this is a Bally Sagoo tape. Okay, I'll buy the new tape. So it was always, that was an exciting time when you buy the new latest tapes coming out from people that have been obviously getting the artworks together, getting the music together, and getting everything ready.
It just reminded me, my mum and dad had a grocery shop, and they used to sell your cassettes. And they were the most, and can I just say, they were the most expensive cassettes.
Well, I'm glad.
It was sold for the higher price than the Bollywood ones, but people used to come buy it. We used to sell loads.
Yeah, I remember when people said to me, they go, "Your tape is like 275, and everyone else is 250." I'm like, "Well, there you go, man. Mine's the top of the range. Top of the range. It was 275, and I still remember the price. I mean, like, average cassette was 250, and I was like, "We're gonna sell us at 275." And then along came my other cassettes, and then they started going to 399.
Yeah,
And that was for a full album.
Yeah, yeah. So you did well. You'd be lucky to get that price now.
Oh God!
Not you personally. I meant the industry, because it's changed so much. Nobody can get that kind of price.
Yeah, I mean, I still prefer physical sales. My music collection is such a huge collection of records and CDs, tapes. I've always liked the physical. I mean, what are you going to do when you get older? You're going to just play your records off your phone and say, "Hey, man, I got a great music collection." And they're all MP3s, which are not very good quality. You know, it's nice to get I mean, there's nothing like a record, obviously.
Yeah.
But definitely the physical sales and the album and the quality, and it's not an illegal download. It's a proper sound that hopefully the producers made it how you want to hear it. That was the moment, I think. And you know, with that whole fun of playing it in your car, and you open the cover, rip the tape off it, and like throw it out the window, and like put the CD in your car, put the cassette in your car.
That's nostalgia, definitely.
Yeah, and remember rewinding the song so many times. You're like, I want to rewind. And then you used to get
stuck because you reminded it so many times.
Or it's just getting chewed inside, and you like pull it out, and you're like, oh my God, my life has just ended now. My whole tape has just been chewed up. Oh my God, I've got to buy another one now.
Another $3.99 gone.
Yeah, $3.99 for a whole album. My God, what a big ripoff, really. A whole album which you've just taken a whole year to record. Wow.
No, it was. I mean, you felt as if it was value, though. You felt as if you've got something really worthy in your hands.
No, it was something that you highlight. It was like part of your weekend. Everyone, you know, every weekend you go out and buy the latest tape, latest album, whoever's new, whatever's new, and I mean, and again, probably we're waffling about something that the youngsters would never appreciate or get into. They're like, why would you do that for, man? Well, you can just download it. Or, you know, I could just, you know, press a button and it's on my phone. And that's the world they're in. I mean, my little girl, she's not seen a record before, you know, so she's always like, you know, why is there a hole in the middle of the record? You know, and you know, it's like, why is it so heavy? You know, because, I mean, records obviously are quite heavy. And today it's a very retro thing. It's obviously got a very cool
valuable
look to it now. I mean, I have thousands of cassettes and loads of records, and for me that's my treasure. You know, that's my jewels. And if I put something on and I put the needle on the record and just sit down and listen to it, I think, wow, listen to that sound, man. And you won't get that today.
Legend, absolute legend. Thank you so much for speaking to me. It's been it's not felt like an interview, actually. I just felt like I've conversed with an old friend.
That's how it should be. It's just in conversation with Fatima Patel.
That's it. Thank you.